Hi everybody, it's Andy and welcome again to my office in Los Altos, California. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in California as well as New York. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to request medical records from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, there are several reasons why you might want to do that. Number one could be that you are a veteran that is requesting medical records to prove service-connected disability in some way. Another reason could be that you are a veteran who has, received private medical insurance through, your employer, and you've gotten a new doctor, and the doctor wants to know the history of medical treatment you've received up to that point. So, regardless of the actual reason why you want to request medical records, the procedure, the process is the same. So I'm going to go over the forms that you need. I'm going to show you how to submit them. The submission process can be a little confusing, so I'm going to roll in a map. Hopefully that'll be more self-explanatory. So the first caveat that I have to go over, though, however, is that because we're talking about the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, we're not talking about active duty records. So the VA records basically will be for veterans who were in the some branch of the military, completed their time, got out, and then as civilians they had to go get care from the VA. That's what this video is about. If you have a situation that, for instance, is dealing with service-connected disability, it's something where you might need to prove not only treatment after the veteran got out, but you have to prove treatment while the veteran was actually in the service. This video does not apply to you, so the thing is this video covers post-discharge treatment only. If you are interested or if you need treatment records for when the veteran in question was actually active duty still, the form that you need is the standard Form 180, the SF-180 form. If you check elsewhere on my channel, I actually have, I think, 3, maybe 4 videos that go over how to fill that out. I'm going to go ahead and link those as a card up here, so go ahead and take a look at that if that is something that you need for your particular situation. So all of that disclaimer stuff aside, the forms that you need in order to request medical records from the VA, it's basically one of 2 forms, so I'll go over them both. One of them is the Form 10-5345A, the VA Form 10-5345A, and then the other one is the VA Form 10-5345, so basically without the A. Now, the difference between the 2 forms basically is this. If you are interested in basically just requesting your records from the VA, like you're the veteran in question, you just want a copy of all the medical files, all the medical records that the VA has on you, you can use the Form 10-5345A. So the A form is just the request form. The VA will actually just send that to you. It's pretty straightforward, I guess. The 10-5345 form, the one without the A, is a request form, so you're asking the VA to release medical records, and you're asking the VA to send the medical records to a third party. So that's the difference between the 2 forms, the 5345 and the 5345A. The 5345 is the request as well as the release. The 5345A is just the request. So the 5345, for example, if you release your records to somebody else, this third party, could be a new doctor, it could be a lawyer who's helping you with your service-connected disability claim, for example. It could be another, accredited representative, licensed to practice before the VA, etc. So that said, is it required that you use the 5345? Why can't you just request your records yourself and then hand your records over to this third party? Can you do that? Absolutely. It accomplishes the same goal. But I would guess that the VA, for example, has run into this situation often enough that it just was worthwhile for them to create a special kind of separate process to kind of make it easier. So that information said, I have filled out both forms several times, the 5345, and then I've helped several vets do the 5345A. The identification part is usually not a problem. So the thing is, with the combination of the veteran's name, their social security number, dates of service, branch or branches of service, locating the veteran's medical file generally is not a problem. What is more often a problem, I guess that's the best way to put it, is the veteran is not specific enough in what information they provide to the VA in order for the VA to actually send the proper medical records to the veteran. So for example, the veteran, let's just pick an example of a veteran who was, fairly severely injured during service. They might, be going to the VA hospital several times a week 10 times a month, etc., for years and years. In that case, it's something where it is actually somewhat complicated to remember when exactly a particular surgery took place or when a particular therapy took place, etc., etc. So, of course, on the opposite extreme, there might be a veteran who basically has gone to the VA maybe 5 times in the last 5 years. And in that case, it's actually very easy, hopefully, hopefully very easy for the veteran to remember when they had a particular surgery, when they talked to a particular doctor, etc., etc. So organizing stuff by date is very common at the VA. So the thing is, if you are a veteran or if you're assisting a veteran trying to get VA medical records, it is something very important, I think, to remember the date as precisely as you can. So that said, the question about submission is a little more complicated to explain. So the general rule, I guess, is that you have to submit your 10-5345A or 10-5345, whichever form you use. You have to submit it to the healthcare system that covers the VA facility where you receive treatment. This may or may not be the same VA facility, the VA region rather, where you live now. So the thing is, let's say that you used to live in the Seattle area and you received treatment from the VA up there, but now you've moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and you need to request records from the Seattle VA in order to do something at the VA in Phoenix, let's say, or to apply for service-connected disability. Now, the actual kind of more technical explanation requires differentiating between service networks and healthcare networks, or healthcare systems, rather. So that's a little more confusing to describe orally. So I will go ahead and roll in a map actually right now. I'm also going to post, or put rather, a link to the website that I'm about to show you down in the description below. It's actually a website run by the VA, so the thing is, go ahead and take a look at that. And hopefully, if you kind of listen to what I'm about to tell you, it should not be too terribly difficult to, kind of figure out where exactly you need to send your, your paperwork. So once you actually send in your paperwork, the general process, I think, will vary a little bit from VA facility to VA facility. But in the times, for example, where I have talked to the VA in Palo Alto, the one in Palo Alto, California, that's closest to me, once they receive the 10-5345 or the 5345A, generally it takes about 2 weeks for them to process it. And for example, when if you're talking about a 10-5345, you submit the form in roughly 2 weeks or so. Later, the Palo Alto VA will mail me a, basically an envelope full of paper, or if the records requested are too big, like too voluminous, I sometimes will get a CD from the Palo Alto VA as well. So that's the basic idea, I think. The forms themselves, the 5345A and the 5345, they're relatively straightforward. I don't think they're hard. Like, they'll ask you for basic, kind of information, name, social security number, etc. They'll ask you for the types of records that, you're looking for. And again, dates are very specific, like dates are very important rather, to give specific dates. And yeah, that's basically it. So I'm not going to actually go over how to fill either of those forms out. Hopefully they're pretty self-explanatory. But the thing is, once you actually figure out where to send it, which I'll explain in a second, the wait is, usually about 2 weeks, a couple weeks or so for them to actually send you the records that you are looking for. So hopefully all of that made sense, and why don't you guys stick around with me and I will show you that map that I'm talking about right now. Okay, everybody, so here's the map that I have been talking so much about. As you can see, it's on the VA's own website. The website address is right there. I'm going to go ahead and put that website address down in the description for this video also. So if you're trying to get to this map on your own, check down in the description and hopefully you can just click on the link and be good. So once you actually get to this map, though, you'll notice that it covers the entire United States. Like, it's all broken down into colorful regions with numbers and stuff. Outlying territories, Puerto Rico, Guam, etc., are also on here. So the way that you use this map then is basically you have to find the VA facility that you are trying to get medical records from. You find out which number or which colored region covers that facility. You take the number, you go down to this big long list of service networks, Veterans Integrated Service Networks. You find which number which link rather corresponds to the number of the network you're interested in. You go to the service network's website, Within that service network, there are going to be multiple healthcare systems, and generally those are going to be organized by city. So things within each service network, like in big cities in that network, there are going to be healthcare systems. So you generally need to know the city that kind of is closest to the facility that you're trying to get medical records from. That will give you the most likely candidate, I guess, for the healthcare system that covers that facility. So once you actually get the healthcare system that you're interested in, that healthcare system will have its own website. On that website, there's going to be a section describing how to get medical records, including, mailing addresses, fax numbers, phone numbers, etc. So it's a multi-step process. Hopefully what I just said was not too confusing. To kind of repeat, you use this map to find out which number corresponds to the VA facility you're trying to get records from. You take the number, that gives you the service network from this list, and then from the service network's website, you can basically use the cities, I guess, that are in that area, and then figure out which healthcare system covers the facility you're interested in. On that healthcare system's website, there's going to be a section describing how to get medical records, including mailing address, fax numbers, etc. So, assuming that was not too terribly confusing, I'm going to try to go through an example. So I'm going to use Region 21 as my example, mainly because that's where I am. So from Region 21, then you go down to this list. VISN 21 is the Sierra Pacific network. You open that in a new browser tab, and you'll see here basically that within Region 21, there's the San Francisco VA healthcare system, the Central California VA healthcare system, the VA Northern California healthcare system, the Palo Alto healthcare system where I am, and there's stuff that goes into Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, etc. So if you go to the Palo Alto VA healthcare system website, for example, it looks like this. This is the step that you ultimately want to get to. I mean, I'm using Palo Alto just to illustrate, but regardless of what healthcare system covers the facility that you're interested in, you have to get to the, the analog of this page for whatever healthcare system you're interested in. Once you do, the section that you're interested in the most is this gray bar over here that says patients and visitors. If you click on that, click on patient information, and go down to request your medical records. And this is where you ultimately want to get to, because it goes over how to request your information by mail, how to request your information by just walking in to the Palo Alto VA. And it also has forms over here, like links to forms over here, the 10-5345 and the 5345A. So that's the basic process for the Palo Alto healthcare system. If we go back a little bit, I can try to go through another example. So we just did Region 21 or Service Network 21. If we go, I'll just pick 19. That is the Rocky Mountain Network. We go to the new tab, and let's just say the Salt Lake City healthcare system. If you open that in a new tab, you'll see that there is this same kind of gray menu bar thing over here. You click on patients and visitors, patient information, request your medical records, and there you go. So I guess the VA healthcare system in Salt Lake City, they have a phone number versus a mailing address. So, and again, there's the 10-5345 and 5345A form. So that's the general kind of idea. Again, to hopefully summarize, you go back to this map here, you get the number or the region that corresponds to the VA facility that you're interested in. You go down to this big long list of service networks. You go to the website of that service network. You find the healthcare system that covers the facility that you're interested in. You go to that healthcare system's website. On that website, there's going to be a section that describes how to get medical records from that healthcare system. So hopefully that made sense. The process, you would think that the VA has a standardized kind of uniform process throughout the United States, but unfortunately that is not the case. The process that I described in general will apply, but the thing is, each healthcare system, each service network might do things slightly differently. So hopefully that helped. Go ahead and leave me a comment, subscribe, share. Yeah, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.